You just laugh at all my jokes, and
Okay, let's go.
You got your water, Dave? Okay.
Now on Monday they had hearings all afternoon, and then they had a council meeting at night. So by the time they got to the council meeting, they were like, "Okay, let's go." So we're lucky we're the first one, but it's right after lunch, so. Yes. Yeah. Michael starts with a W. Whitaker or something like that.
Yeah.
we know now.
Yep.
So, and the other thing.
All right, why don't we call this budget hearing to order? And we do have EPS with us. And I know Auditor Mike Walters here to report. Mike?
Thank you. The proposed fiscal year 2020 budget for the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability totals approximately $6.4 million, an increase of $181,000 or 2.9% from the FY 2019 budget. The general fund portion increases by approximately $141,000 or 2.5%, primarily due to the addition of a Chief Sustainability Officer position, as well as the second half of the January 1, 2019 3% COLA. The special fund portion of the budget increases by approximately $40,000 or 5.8% from the FY 2019 budget. Based on our analysis, we have identified two potential budget reductions totaling approximately $220,000. The first reduction proposes eliminating $150,000 for landscape tree plantings on business and homeowners association properties. This potential reduction suggests businesses and HOAs provide landscaping around their own private properties to enhance the attractiveness for their residents and employees. The second potential reduction proposes eliminating additional funding for the Chief Sustainability Officer position. This potential reduction suggests the department could utilize existing vacancies to fund this position. According to the Office of Budget and Finance, as of April 29, 2019, the department had 8 vacant general fund positions out of a total of 76 authorized positions. In addition, this analysis details one significant policy change, sustainability and climate resiliency, which begins on page 7, and 3 other issues, including Clean Water Act compliance, progress of watershed restoration issues, and tree canopy goals, beginning on page 9. At this time, I would like to turn it over for discussion.
Floor is yours. Good to see you.
Thanks for having us. I just wanted to introduce the people I brought with me today. They don't always get to come. Rob Ryan from Watershed Restoration Section. He's the guy that does the stream restorations and the shoreline enhancements. Rob Hirsch from our Watershed Management and Monitoring Section. Does all the monitoring, does the computer database stuff, all the inputs for our MS4 permit. Brian Lindley from our Forest Management Section. Debbie Kendall runs our finances with Randy Wolf. And my 2 favorite budget analysts on my side, Elizabeth and Matt Carpenter. Just to address some of the things that Mike brought up. First of all, the unexpended funds over the last several years with the 8 vacant positions. You know, I was the deputy director for a long time, and Vince Gardina left last year as director, so that's a big budget item towards the $200,000 that we haven't expended that they're proposing we didn't expect. We lost the director. We lost Vince and I had an executive assistant that found another job in the county, and we didn't fill that position because we didn't want somebody to come just for a temporary couple months, and nobody really wanted to come for a couple months and commit to that job, not knowing who the director was going to be with the new administration. But as of Monday now, I'm the new director, so we can go ahead and fill that position. And I can also then fill the deputy director position. And we had several managers, which are between $90,000 and $100,000 a year, retire in the last 2 years. We did bring one back, Jim Marco, our stormwater management manager, for 6 months to help us with the transition and to hire his replacement. But the $200,000 that was proposed to be unexpended, that's those high-level positions. It's not a lot of smaller positions. When you count maybe those 4 or 5 positions, we're really down to 2 that we're actually trying to, 2 additional ones that we're working on vacancies filling right now. So there really isn't a bunch of unexpended money sitting around every year. I'll go to page 6 of Mike's analysis where he proposes to eliminate landscape tree planting businesses for HOAs for $150,000. I'm not sure that Mike really understands what we do with tree planting. We really have 2 kinds of tree planting, and we've done this in many of your districts. We have a rural reforestation program where we're out planting up in the rural areas, 5 acres at a clip, 3 acres at a clip, 1.5 acres. you might have somebody who has a 10-acre property who abuts a state forest, and they are tired of mowing the grass on 10 acres. So they come to us, and we will plant 5 acres of trees in the back for them, so helps them. They have less grass to mow. It's better for the environment, and we can take credit for that. So that's sort of the rural version of it. We also have an urban area program, and that's, I think, where they're really going here. I think maybe there was a misunderstanding on some of the figures that were given to them on the urban area. There's a couple of projects. We do not, the analysis says that we may be planting for HOAs and businesses. We're not doing that in general. We're not in the business of taking care of development requirements for developers. We do things like Councilman Mark's district, Rattleball Park. Property management and Rec and Parks need some help there. They're creating a park, planting grass. The neighbors, the Towson Green people and the neighbors in the community want to have some trees, so we stepped in and we're going to plant some trees for them. That's the smaller urban version. Also down the street on Stevenson Lane, there's a small pocket park at the end of Six Bridges Trail. So the neighbors there want to have some trees planted. We said, go to Rec and Parks, and we have a Rec and Parks approved plan. We'll be glad to plant some trees for you. So we're planting smaller areas. I think Councilwoman Bevins, we planted some trees on Lock Raven Boulevard for you at one time. So that's the smaller urban version that we're using. So that $150,000, we basically have one project that it might be an HOA that, you know, suppose several years ago, 30 years ago, you set up an HOA and you had some vacant area and you have a couple acres you can have planted, you'd like to have planted, you don't want to maintain, but we're more than happy to do that because we get credit for it for our MS4 permit. Every tree that gets planted, we get an acre per acre credit, but we also get individual tree credit. So if you plant 110 individual trees in different places, that adds up to 1 acre's worth of credit. So we do smaller stuff in the urban areas, we do bigger stuff in the rural areas, but it all adds up to things we get credit for. So I think it would be unfortunate to, I think it's a misunderstanding about what that $150,000 is. Secondly, Mike suggests we eliminate the Chief Sustainability Officer position. I was very excited when I saw in the transition document that we were going to have a sustainability officer, and it recommended in the transition document that Elizabeth prepared that it be in the Office of Department of Planning or in the Executive Office. Well, upon further discussions, when the budget came out, it's in my department. And I think it's a great idea. I think it can only benefit all of us in the county. Councilman Crandall, Councilwoman Bevins, 6th and 7th districts, climate change, resiliency, sustainability. When all of us were just average age, let's say, that we're all the same age, when we were in college, those were just, nobody knew anything about them. And then they became buzzwords. And now they're realities. And climate change, everybody knows something's happened. They may not all agree upon who's doing it or what the cause is, but things are happening. And the federal government, the state government, other county governments all have people. Howard County has people. Baltimore City has 18 people, I think, that do sustainability. We need someone who can go out and not do the research, but collect the research, bring it back to us, tell us what's going on. It can only help the council in terms of fiscal matters, whether you're talking about public works standards, do we need to change public works standards? If we're building a new school in the 6th or 7th district, from property management, or we're going to build a new recreation center, is it in a flood zone? Do we have to elevate it? How close is it to what might be flooded in the future? CEQ would be a great resource for this person. I think that I was very pleased to see the county executive put this in the budget. Now I'm even more pleased that it might be in my department. We don't have any plans yet. We haven't mapped out what they're going to do. We haven't mapped out all their projects. They gave us $500,000 in the budget for projects. It shows up in the Public Works storm drain section and the capital section of the storm drains. And there's actually 3 proposed projects in there. All 3 of those projects have been to the capital capital budget hearings, the public capital budget hearings. I know Councilman Marks was there advocating for some of them for the Stoneley project one year. Those are all things that those projects all need to be done, and all three of those are storm drain projects. I guess, Councilman Koch, you probably have the one on Melanchthon, the one proposed project for you. So I think it's a great idea to have a sustainability officer that can collect all this data and advise you on future, changes. I think that at the end of the day, what Mike is recommending here actually is that my department reclassify a position for this person, so take one of my existing employees and change it over to be this person. I really don't have, my managers are here today helping me. I don't have a manager that I can give up and convert to that position. They're all busy, even the people that are under them that would be capable of doing that. I have some very smart people. I have actually 3 people that are working on their master's degrees in sustainability right now. One was a contractor who left and went to University of Edinburgh in Scotland. She just got her master's degree and she's coming back. I have 2 other young people, younger employees that are getting their master's degrees in sustainability. But I can't afford to give up what they're doing for me today and convert that position. So I would ask that you not require me to take one of my existing employees and make them that you would honor the county executive's budget. And that, I know, Councilman Crandall, you had some, I know that you know that the people that we do have people that would be good at that we could convert, but I really can't afford to give up those positions. So those were really the 2 items, the $150,000 and the $70,000 that Mike recommended that you cut from my budget, and we talked about the vacancies. I'm really on page 6 and 7 of what Mike had written up. If we go to page 8, outreach and education. Elizabeth, would you like to pass out those pictures I gave you? There were some questions in the auditor's report about things that we're doing with our education outreach with our MS4 department. And this is one of the, we spend $250,000 a year with a private consultant helping us do education outreach. And it's actually required in our MS4 permit that we do that. Here's some ads that we're putting out right now. I know Councilman Jones was with us the other day when we kicked off our anti-litter campaign. But these are going on buses. These are going on billboards. So we started our Litter Blitz campaign with the county executive. Do we have enough for everybody?
Major cuts coming to depths from Councilwoman Bevins and I.
Elizabeth, you were supposed to start at that end and work this way.
I'm happy to share mine with you, Councilman Crandall.
There you go, Julie.
So that's what we're doing with our education and outreach budget. We have an item in here in our budget package, one of the questions about solar energy. We don't do solar energy in our department. That's something that property management does. We had an employee, I'm not sure if you all remember when David Carroll was here, and did you? David Carroll left our department and went to the executive office and became director of sustainability. And he had a $6 million grant to do energy audits on buildings. And so he was director of sustainability until he retired. He had one employee. That employee came to our department when he retired. Her name was Ayla Haig, and she was doing energy audits on county buildings and doing really good work. But we're not about county buildings, and so she moved over into property management. And she worked in property management until she retired and moved on to another job. And within the last 6 months, property management has hired somebody to replace her who is working on solar energy and energy audits. And obviously that would be a person who would work closely with our sustainability person. But that's not, these items aren't in our department. They should be really answered by property management. Clean Water Act cost and compliance on page 9, our MS4 permit. As you all know, or we might know, we talked about this a little bit in the fall, our MS4 permit is for 5 years for storm drains. It expired in December 23rd of 2018, right before it expired, we had to turn in a financial assurance plan to explain what we were doing and how much money we were spending. So we did have to bring that to the council. The council approved that. Our permit did expire. It's administratively continued until we get a new one. So we're expecting to get a new one sometime this June, but we've continued to do the projects. If you'd asked me this time last year, were we going to make our 5-year permit, were we going to fulfill our obligation, I probably would have said no. As the year went by, the state realized that 2 years ago, the state realized that several of the counties weren't going to make their obligation, and they passed trading. They passed trading regulations. The state spent hundreds of millions of dollars upgrading sewage treatment plants. And the sewage treatment plants were doing so well that there was extra nutrient capacity in the sewage treatment plants. And so the state decided, this is across the whole state, they would allow trading, and they passed trading regulations. And in our financial assurance plan 2 years ago, we put in there that we were going to borrow about 1,000 acres of trading. Well, the states, as they started to develop those regulations, they started slicing the bay up into different slices and said, you can only trade with a sewage treatment plant that's in your slice. And in our slice of the bay, the only sewage treatment plants available were Baltimore City. And so we had to change our MS4 permit to be able to do trading. And you had to do it by July 1st of last year. The city didn't sign up. The city didn't participate. So basically, we had nobody to trade with. And we told the state that, and they really didn't seem bothered by it. And so they continued to tell us, we need to trade with the city. And I reminded the state that trading is a give and take, and we're currently in an argument with the city about water and sewer fees with a difference of about $20 million. They're not going to give us a trade for free, even if they signed up to do it. And the state said, you should trade with the city. And I said, come on, guys, you're killing us. And then in the fall, the state came to us and said, on a different topic, on a new watershed implementation plan, they have an expert panel. The EPA and the state have expert panels that decide how much credit you get for all the different activities that you do for your MS4 permit. And they came to us and they said, you know what? We found out that we have a math error, that we've been calculating how much credit we should give you. And you should be getting a lot more credit than you're getting for your stream restoration project specifically. And we said, wow, that's great. How much more? And they said probably like 8 times, if you average 8 times more credit for nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment reductions. And we said, well, that would be really good. Can we use that on our permit? And they said, we'll look into it. And then they called us back and they said, you know what? Go ahead and use it on your permit. And so in December of last year, right before our permit expired, Rob Hirsch spent 3 weeks recalculating everything we'd done in the last 5 years. And as luck would have it, we were over the limit. We exceeded the requirements. So we asked the state what to do, and they said, turn it in that way. And so we turned our permit in that way, the report in that way for the 5th year report, and then for the all 5-year report that we provided, we turned it in. And that report indicated that we did, in fact, meet our obligation. So it might have been a little bit of luck, but our story is that we made it. The state is still, now that the permits, there were 4 major jurisdictions that had permits expire in December or January. We've all turned in our reports, and now the state is vacillating a little bit on the credit that they were going to give us. So I can't sit here today and guarantee you that we fulfilled our requirements, but from what they told us in the fall, we think we did it. So that's where we stand today. We plan on receiving our new permit sometime in June from the state, and they'll have the new requirements in there. There's really 3 parts to the permit, the past permit that we had. The first part was impervious surface pollutant reductions. They said, figure out how much impervious surface is in your county, and you have to reduce pollutants from 20% of it. So we have about, and again, Rob Hirsch did the analysis, we have about 30-some thousand acres of impervious surface in Baltimore County. And 20% of it came out to be 6,036 acres. So we had to reduce the pollutants. So we do all these projects to reduce pollutants on 6,036 acres. That's one piece of it. Second piece of our MS4 permit is the Bay TMDL. So the Bay TMDL is total maximum daily load is a TMDL, but it has TMDLs for nitrogen, for phosphorus, and for sediment. So all the counties surrounding the bay have to reduce pollutants for the Bay TMDL, for the state of Maryland and the EPA. The EPA tells the state they have to do it. The third part of it is we have local TMDLs. We have local waterways that are polluted with different pollutants. Some of them are nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment. We also have trash. We have litter. We have bacteria. We have some legacy old-time pollutants that are still in the sediments. We have chloridane. We have PCBs. We have mercury that mostly comes from the air. And as this report indicates, in the future, we may get some local TMDLs on salt, road salt, basically. And that's coming. So when we get a TMDL, what we have to do is we spend the first year doing a TMDL implementation plan, developing a plan on how we're going to handle that pollutant. And then we have an extended period of time to try to figure out what to actually do with it once we develop the plan. I'll use the litter and the trash that you see that I was too short on my pictures. But when they gave us that the state gave us that TMDL in the Jones Falls and the Glens Falls and said you have to reduce trash and litter. And so we worked on a plan on how to do it. And actually our plan is 20 years long. And this is the part of the first 10 years. The first 10 years we have to try to change people's mind on trash and litter and what they do and get them to stop dropping it as they walk down the street and have the plastic bottles go in the storm drain. If we can't change their mind in the first 10 years, then we have to do physical structures. We'll have to put baskets in storm drains to collect the trash before it actually gets into the stream. When we first developed that, our Public Works Department was not happy. They said, you better change their mind in the first 10 years. So that's what we're doing today with that, and we're trying to change it. But we do have 26 TMDLs for our different local waterways. So that's what we're spending your money on. Reducing impervious surface, the Bay TMDL, and local TMDLs. The ways that we reduce the impervious surface restoration, there's really 4 things that we do. And this state and federal expert panel gives you different credits for the things that you do. Again, with the trees, we plant trees. And if you plant 100 trees, that equals 1 acre of impervious restoration. So we have to do 6,000. Every 100 trees we plant is 1 acre of that. We also do stream restoration projects. For every foot length of stream that you restore, you get a certain amount of credit towards impervious surface restoration. Shoreline enhancement in the 6th and 7th District. When we do hardened shorelines and sometimes we plant marshes in front of them, for every linear foot, you're reducing the amount of sediment that goes into the bay, and along with it, nitrogen and phosphorus usually. So you get a lot of credit for every foot, and that's how they calculate how much credit you get, by how many feet you do. The 4th thing that we do is we take old stormwater management ponds, which we have probably 4,000 in Baltimore County, some privately owned, some publicly owned. If you take them, the state will give you credit towards your permit, again, for a drainage area around a pond, for reducing pollutants in that drainage area. If it's a new pond, they'll give you 75% credit. If it's an old pond that was built under old technology back in the, let's say, 1980s, 1990s, they'll give you 8% credit. So one of the things that we do is we take older ponds and we convert them using newer technology to get more credit. So those are really the 4 things that we do in our capital budget when we come to you and ask for money. Those are the things we're doing in your different districts towards our NPDES permit. Let's see, what other things did he have listed? So that's progress on our watershed restoration projects, our MS4 permit. What plans do we have for salt management? We'll get a salt, we're planning, the state has told us that we will get a salt TMDL sometime this year. We haven't gotten it yet. When we get that, we'll have to work with Public Works to do things like reduce the amount of, I know that Public Works at the beginning of the year when the new county executive came in and was looking for cost savings, one of the cost savings was we're going to put less salt on the roads. It becomes a public safety issue how much less you put on the roads, but obviously we'll work with them to try to figure out what we're going to do. There's a lot in here about how much money we're spending on different projects and why we have a lot of unexpended funds. I know that we talked about that before, but these stream restoration projects and other projects take 3 or 4 years to do. So we have to have the money in the fund in order to do the project to put it out to bid. That's why there's usually a lot of money sitting there. And unexpected appropriations of watershed restoration capital projects. We have questions about the Watershed Association Restoration Planning and Implementation Grants. Now, that's part of our permit to work with these local watershed groups, and I think all of you have at least one watershed group in your area, and most of these people are volunteers. I think Councilman Crandall has the Back River Restoration Committee, that has 2 grants that we give, and they're great people, and we really appreciate the hard work that they do. We gave some figures here, and I don't know if everybody read all of this, but in 2018, the Back River Trash Boom collected 188 tons of trash. If you multiply that out, that's 377,000 pounds of trash. So there's 365 days in a year. That's at least 1,000 pounds, more than 1,000 pounds every day that trash boom collects. And that's just one river. I mean, that's one watershed. And we give them $99,000 a year. Well, guess what? That is the best money we spend for 1,000 pounds a day. I mean, I can't say enough about the good work that they do. But all of these watershed groups are volunteers, and they come and they go. Some of them started out small. Councilman Quirk, your Patapsco Heritage Greenway people were just a small group, and then they expanded to volunteers, and suddenly now we're giving them $60,000 a year towards their program. Other ones, Councilman Koch, some have disappeared over time. What's the one I'm thinking of? Pretty Boy Watershed Association. We had been giving them money, but people move on in life, and they come and they go, and some of the people that were running that moved on. But we'll get some more people back in there in a couple of years, and they'll be back on the list again.
You will.
There's other ones that aren't even, that aren't big enough to get money. I'll use Clean Bread and Cheese Creek as one. They're always right on the cusp of jumping in. Councilman Marks, the Towson Green people. At some point they could organize enough that, I know maybe we'll be giving them money in a couple of years.
Is Gunpowder Valley Conservancy on your list?
Gunpowder Valley Conservancy and Gunpowder, Back River, and Blue Water Baltimore are the 3
they're
stalwarts, the
They're
best.
wonderful,
They
yeah.
give us the best bang for the buck. They do the most work. They get the most volunteers. I can't say enough good things about any of those 3. And they don't just do work in Baltimore County, they do work in other counties. But Gunpowder is excellent at leveraging their funds to go out and get grants from other places. They do a really good job of that. The Blue Water Baltimore is the best at planting trees. They do the best tree plantings of anybody. And then, of course, Back River does their work. And all these groups do so much more work than you'll ever see that we could ever promote. That's sort of the meat and potatoes of the liaison between our department and the community are all these watershed groups. So we're getting a lot. We put $240,000 in a pot and then try to subdivide it up amongst them. And that's some of the best work we do. It's required in our permit, but that's not why we do it. But it really creates goodwill amongst the neighborhoods and the community associations, and I can't say enough good things about the people that work for that. The last section is our forest management section, which we talked about, the tree canopy goals and some of the things that they do. And, it's really hard. We do a lot of work on public lands. We're just starting to really branch out and really get good at some of the private lands. It's hard to talk a private landowner into letting you plant trees on their property and leave them there forever, but we've been doing pretty good about it. That forest management group excuse me, also talks about some pests. There's some questions in here about some pests that we work with Department of Agriculture. We do gypsy moth surveys every year, especially up in Councilman Koch's districts. The last couple of years, we haven't had to spray. The results have been good. We also do deer management. We survey for deer in both Cromwell Valley Park and in Oregon Ridge Park, and there's a lot of deer. They've recommended this year that we actually do a nighttime deer hunt to try to cull some of the deer because they're going to eat the entire understory in both of those parks if we don't. There's also pests. The emerald ash borer is now in Baltimore County. It's going to kill a lot of ash trees. There's a lot of street trees that are ash trees. There's a lot more in Baltimore City than in Baltimore County, but in general, the emerald ash borer will kill the majority of the ash trees, and we'll have to replace them. There's also a question about the lanternfly. I don't know if anybody knows what a lanternfly is. Up to a year ago, I didn't. They sort of look like a cicada. You know, when you get the swarms of cicadas, they can swarm on a tree. So far, I think they've only gotten 2 in the state of Maryland. So it's not become a real problem yet, but look forward in the future. And I think I've run out of paper to talk about. So do you have any questions?
Councilman Katz.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the salary for the sustainability officer of $70,000, that doesn't seem like a lot for, I would imagine, the expertise this person's going to need, the education. Is that a reasonable figure?
I think it is. That's about the starting salary for one of my managers.
Okay.
So it'll go up from there. That's the low end of the salary for that job position. It's actually an M4 position, which is a step ahead of my managers. So over time, that would grow if the person stayed with the county.
Now, with the 150 trees for HOAs, et cetera, are those trees paid for by the taxpayers, or are they paid for by development fees when builders remove trees and they put money in a fund? I mean, what?
It can be one or the other. I mean, my forest management section does 2 things. They plant trees for the Forest Conservation Act, and they plant trees for MS4 for permitting purposes. On the MS4 side, when they plant trees, we get credit towards our permit. On the forest conservation side, we do collect fee and lieu from developers when they can't provide plantings on their site. And then we take that and we do one of 2 things with it. We go and plant other trees in other places, and we would never do that on private land. We'd have to put an easement around it if we did. For the Forest Conservation Act, that would be a requirement. The other thing we can do with that forest conservation money is we can buy existing forest and put an easement on it and save it forever. But you only get half as much credit for that if you do.
So what you're saying is, with the homeowners association, if you were to plant one of the trees that is paid for, in theory, by a developer, that does not...
No, that would not be the development money. We're not allowed to use development money for that. We would do it for MS4 credits for us.
Okay. The question about the tree canopy, I was startled when I looked at the list. I represent part of Parkville, and I see it has the largest drop of tree cover canopy. Went from 42% to 28% in 9 years. Is that, was there a storm or something, or what is, I mean, that is a huge drop.
Yeah.
Any idea what's
I'm going
going
to see
on?
if Mr. Lindley from my forest management section has any idea there.
Yeah, for that particular case, I would say it's more of a data issue.
A what issue?
Data.
Data.
Used back in 2007 is different at this point in time compared to what it was back then. We have much more clear data now than we had back then. So if, for whatever reason, Parkville has a more significant drop, not necessarily because it was, one time event, a storm, development, or something like that, just the data for that particular area might have not been correct.
Which one is the 7 numbers or the 16 numbers?
So the 16 numbers are much better data than
Okay. Last question with phosphorus, nitrogen, silting, and salt. I would like to see where the federal government has come and has required that we take action should any of these levels be high. You're expecting one on salt soon?
Yes.
Now, when you say you're expecting, does it mean that they have found a reservoir or particular stream of water where the salt content is high, or do they automatically every 2-3 years do this?
Sure, that's a great question. Great question. we have in our permit requirements to do sampling. And the only PhD in my department, Dr. Kevin Brittingham, lives in the basement and has his crew of samplers that goes out, and they do quarterly sampling, they do monthly sampling, they do trend sampling. And all that data that they collect, we have to report to the state. And so the state looks at all the different waterways and all the locations and says, wow, look, we have a trend here where this is increasing, and it's not just us, it's different places in the state. And that's how we get our local TMDLs. They'll look at that water quality data that we provide them, that water sampling data, and then they'll come back and say, and they don't just drop it on us like, you know, a lead balloon. We've in conversation with them over time and develop it. So we've known that both in the reservoirs and in people's wells, sodium and chloride levels have been increasing significantly over the last few years. So it'll probably be in the reservoirs.
So I would like to meet, are you, whoever handles that, I'd like to meet with you and see what numbers I can get and because I get questions all the time about the conditions of the reservoir. And just one last thing, the Pretty Boy Reservoir was one of 3 reservoirs in the United States to have an intense study done on it by the federal government in 2008. And one of the recommendations of the federal government was that there be no more development around that reservoir at all because of the high levels of phosphate and salt and nitrogen already that's there. You know, I think people who drink that, you really don't want to look at it, I'll put it to you.
Well, I will say...
And so in regard to that particular issue, I imagine there's been some building allowed there.
You know,
I wouldn't think much, but some.
When the state changed how they treat septic systems and how they treat subdivisions and areas where septic systems are several years ago, we don't really see very many major subdivisions in northern Baltimore County outside the Erdeline anymore.
Yeah, right.
So in the last 5 years, I would say the constituents you mentioned, you might get trouble in the reservoir from different things. Might be from farming. You might have some of the nitrogen coming in from some of the farmland. But it's not from housing subdivisions, I'm pretty sure. You wouldn't see any increases because we really haven't seen increases in houses.
Good. And I really do want to sit down and get these details.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Councilwoman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, Mr. Likens, thank you so much for the quick response you always have to my office and your staff as well. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
First, I do want to ask my colleagues to not eliminate that $150,000 for the landscape, because if you want to see what a difference it makes in a community, take a ride down Loch Raven Boulevard between Putty Hill and Hillendale, and you'll see what a tremendous impact that makes in a roadway, especially in a community that may have lost a lot of mature trees over the years because it buckled the sidewalks or whatever. So, and I've seen this done elsewhere around the county, and I think it's really important. Thank you also for talking about how important the Chief of Sustainability Officer, because I thought the same thing as you explained why. I thought, why can't somebody in your agency just kind of swing over and do that? But now that you've explained that, I understand it. I won't take up too much more time because we're already running behind, but one thing I would like to say, and I think I say it every year, and I'm hoping that this is the year that the Young administration and the Oshesky administration come together between city and county and work on Herring Run.
Okay.
You were talking about the boom, which the Back River Restoration Committee, although they're back river, that's kind of deceiving. They pull all the trash all the way up into my district as well, wherever the Herring Run stream is, and they do a phenomenal job. We would not have, how many pounds a day, how many thousands of pounds a day did you say? 1,000?
It was over 1,000 pounds
A day. We would not have that if the city could figure out a way from keeping most of that from coming down into the county. Am I correct?
It's both.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just, I know it's both, but I'm just saying, I would like to see a partnership between the city and the county to work together
Okay.
as a team to figure out how we do this. It's great that we have all these volunteers, and it's great that we have the grant money and can supply the equipment that they need to do this, but I'm just thinking there's got to be a better way of keeping it from even getting to the boom. So I'm really hoping that this is the year that that's going to happen, so. and that-
Thank you very much.
That's all I got.
We actually have, if this isn't your district, this is Julian's district, Councilwoman Jones's district. My guys work with the city people all the time. We go to all the same conferences, we talk all the time. And at the project level, the city has these trash wheels.
I know, and they're very, yeah, they're great.
So they have 3 of them. They're
Right.
about to have a 4th. And we're in negotiations with them to be partners on the 4th one, which will be on the Gwens Falls. And then Gwens Falls comes down Reisterstown Road, crosses under Reisterstown
Right.
Road, and then goes down into the city. So the city is going to build it, and they would like us to partner with them and pay part of the maintenance costs, and then we would share in the crediting in our MS4 trash permit. So
And that's for
sorry
the
it's
west
not-
side, though? Would that?
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's
it
gonna
won't
be
make
in-
it over to my watershed.
No, I'm sorry,
don't
but I will direct my people to work more closely with the city in your area and see what we can come up with for you.
Yeah, I see what a phenomenal job that wheel does. And, yeah, it just bothers me all the time that I see all the hours that the Back River Restoration Committee puts into cleaning up our waterways.
They do so much work. It's really amazing. They really do. They're great people.
And they're all volunteers except for the director, so, yeah. And Wade, when did Parkville become part of your district?
That was I was scratching my head on that one.
That's dated.
Carney's me, you're
Ca-
Cub Hill.
Councilman Crandall, then Patoka.
Cub Hill.
Well, while you all figure out who's in your
I know
districts,
where my
um,
I'm gonna-
Where the boundary line.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Likens, thank you for a thorough report and for running a thorough agency that has been very helpful to my constituents. And I've already sent a text down to the executive director, Back River Restoration, that they're quite prominent in the discussion today. And they are doing amazing things with limited resources. And just in case the council members aren't aware, this organization started in 2009 as a grassroots thing, and they now have over 30 pieces of equipment. They have equipment that Baltimore County does not even have. They recently purchased a skimmer, which is basically a giant mouth boat that cleans up trash as it goes along. They purchased it from, I'm not sure who they purchased it from, but this was used on the Anacostia River down in D.C. They've purchased an excavator so they can get large debris and tires out of mud. Just a really impressive organization. So I've passed along your praise for them, David, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Sure. I want to get to the Chief Sustainability Officer. I think the suggestion, and I'm hoping I'm not making you repeat yourself, but the suggestion of the auditor is that there appears to be, there are funded positions that are vacant.
Right.
So I guess the theory is that the auditor is suggesting is that you use those vacant positions or the funding for those vacant positions to pay for this position, the sustainability officer position.
Right. They're actually asking me to take one of those positions and convert it into the sustainability officer position. And my little, and I maybe didn't do a great job of it, but at the beginning when I was talking about our vacant, we have 8 vacant positions. That would include the director, my administrative assistant, both of which we're about to fill those 2 because I'm now the director and I'm going to hire a deputy director to fulfill my position.
Okay.
The administrative assistant didn't want to commit to staying until they knew who the director was going to be. So I was only confirmed as director on Monday night. So now they've committed to that, so that's filled. Several of my managers retired in the last few years. My stormwater management manager came back for 6 months, and he's working 2 days a week for me now until I can hire somebody new to replace him. So these are the positions that are vacant, we're in the process of filling all but 2 of them right now. So I really can't afford to give up any of my positions.
Okay, well, and I am sorry for making you
No, that's fine.
repeat yourself. I just needed to, I guess, get clarity on that. And as far as TMDL credits for trash, I think the receipts from Back River Restoration alone, and when I say receipts, I mean when they take the trash, it gets taken to the landfill and they weigh the dumpster. So we know exactly, that's how we know exactly how many pounds of trash. And I think last year with cleanups and the trash boom, it was 1.3 million pounds of trash, which is just mind-boggling. But do we get TMDL credits for the boom and for those receipts that Back River turns in?
Maybe because they do such a great job, we don't have a trash TMDL in Back River. We have it in Jones Falls,
And
we have it in the
Glens
Glens Falls, but we don't have one in Back River.
So we can't get TMDL credits for 1.3 million pounds of trash.
Right.
That's crazy.
Well,
No, that's a good thing. It shows that they're cleaning up so much that we need to do things like that in these other watersheds.
they are a model organization, I think, for many different watersheds on the bay. Is there any plan or will to lobby the state to include Back River?
Well, that would be like us asking to have it be a problem. We don't want them to give us TMDLs. It's a good thing that we don't have a TMDL. When you have a
I understand,
TMDL, it tells
yeah.
you have a problem. So I'm happy that they haven't given us one for Back River.
Okay, I understand.
There is one, the 2 places we have the trash ones are the Glens Falls, where we're working on the trash wheel, and the Jones Falls.
Okay.
So we would prefer them not to give us TMDLs, because that makes more work for us. So you're right, we're already doing great work, but we're not getting credit for that, but that's okay, because it's not a problem there yet. It's a problem, but it's being addressed.
Very good. I'm done.
Councilman
Thank you, David.
Patoka?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Likens. I have similar concerns as Councilman Cash about the sustainability coordinator. I feel like that we're looking at that position as a management position might set the bar too low. Last night I saw David Carroll at a Blue Water Baltimore event, and I always envisioned that position being someone of the caliber of a David Carroll, who was Secretary of MDE, who was in your position here in Baltimore County, who was in the planning field and the environmental side and very highly regarded in that. I didn't feel like it is a management position of shuffling papers, and no disrespect to the management. I was viewed it as kind of someone who can work across agencies, and that's why it's been so difficult to fill, to identify which agency. Does it belong in planning? Does it belong in environment? Does it belong in the executive side? And so I feel like $70,000 is not going to attract that high caliber person who has the savvy to work with agency heads to ensure that we're doing the things that are appropriate as we continue to spiral out of control in terms of sustainability.
Well, the next steps up from that would be something like a deputy director or a director of a department. So I agree with you, and, well, we haven't formulated and firmed up everything we're going to do with that position and where they're going to sit, and I agree with you. My comments back to Elizabeth in the sustainability transition report about sustainability, when they offered it in the Department of Planning or in the executive office, I said, don't put it in the Department of Planning, because it really needs somebody who can, as you said, work across agencies and have the authority to talk to all the different agencies and have them follow up with that. So that's a great input, and I'll certainly take that back to the administration and see if they would be interested in upgrading that position or even putting it in the executive office. I don't know.
And I apologize, I called it a coordinator, which is even below a director, so a sustainability officer. I just maybe
I just think it's very
maybe
important.
even reporting to the CAO.
Okay. I'll take that input. And
Just some
certainly,
thoughts for my colleagues to consider.
Okay, Councilwoman
Well, I
Bevins?
just have a question. Are they actually managing people?
There's no person here. No, that would
No,
be,
would that person actually be managing people?
no, there's
No.
they would
No.
work closely with our staff, but they'd also work closely with Public Works and with planning and with property management and with the CEQ and, across county departments and agencies.
Right.
And so even if you
I
look at
just want to remind my colleagues that's $7,000 more than what you make, so I'm just saying.
Understood.
And there's a budget deficit right now, so I'm
and-
just reminding everybody of that.
That is also the low end of the scale.
Right.
That's a starting salary,
Sure.
which goes up.
Right.
You don't want to start them at the top and then have nowhere to go.
But even in working with the Department of Public Works, they have a pretty broad portfolio of, the entire transportation component. And to me, sustainability and transportation, there's a lot of nexus on the things we do in transportation, the things we do in public works.
We could go a million directions with this.
Correct.
I absolutely agree with you on that. And I'll go back and talk to the administration and take those thoughts back.
The second thing I wanted to talk about was tree canopy. And does your agency, we had in the neighborhood I live in the 2nd District in Sudbrook Park, we had a lot of diseased ash trees. And so what we were doing is a tandem effort of removing the diseased ash trees, and then Blue Water Baltimore would come behind. And I don't know if it's your department that takes down the diseased ash tree, is that Rector
That's the
Barnes?
part, there's actually Saul Pass in the Department of Public Works, has a
Saul.
street tree program.
So that's
Yes.
Saul, okay.
Yes,
His last name is Pass?
yes.
Okay, he did a great job.
No, he's really good.
And
but,
then
yeah.
Blue Water Baltimore, which is an outstanding organization. As I mentioned, I was at one of their events last night, came back and, for example, we had to take down 4 trees, we put up 10. And so,
There you go. Good.
unfortunately, the ones that we had to take down were much more mature.
Yes.
But still, we've got to start somewhere. How much do we give Blue Water Baltimore?
This year, we're giving them $90,000.
$90,000.
They were getting 60, but we upped it to 90 to help
That's-
plant additional trees.
That's a terrific investment. I can't say enough about Blue Water Baltimore.
We agree.
They're highly professional, they know what they're doing, and they're teachers. And they teach young people how to become good environmental stewards. And I think that's so important because we have too many, in my opinion, folks that don't learn at an early level what it means to throw a piece of trash down a storm drain. And so I think if at an early age we learn this, I think it makes us better into the future. And who's the young man doing all the calculations here? It's
Rob Hirsch.
Rob Hirsch? Well, Rob, in closing, I just want to thank you for wearing my campaign colors. It looks really good on you. Thanks.
And back to this Chief Sustainability Officer real quickly is one thing that I was trying to understand is I think property management still has a position, an energy and sustainability position.
Yep.
So how does this kind of differ from what they're doing? And
Well, that's
I'm sort of trying to really understand what's going
Sure.
on there.
And again, as we were just saying, there's such a broad area of sustainability, climate change, resiliency. Their person does what Ayla Haig used to do, which was energy audits of buildings. So how much electricity we're using, work with BG&E to peak, on peak days to reduce the energy consumption. You can plant trees adjacent to buildings to shade public buildings. Check out the windows, check out what's going on, and get grants for things like that. But they're working on the property management, which is the building side of the county. There's so many more things that we have to do. That's a very specific niche in sustainability. You have the public works side and public works standards. You have the climate change and the flooding issues. The flooding issues, that person isn't working on the flooding issues in Oella or in Ellicott City. You need somebody who can go get the research on that and see if we rebuild these buildings, when we rebuild these roads, what standards should we use? That's not what that person's doing. They're just working for property management.
Yeah, and talk to me a little bit about erosion control with all those rains and everything else that we have going on. I know we've done a couple projects like the one in Oella, which I think is really amazing. But what's our vision for really battling against all these heavy rains and all the erosion. That I feel like for example, my backyard, I feel like it's falling into the, into the stream. And I'm sure so many other residents, I know those are private property issues, but there's a lot of erosion happening out there.
Well, and it's all related to how much rainfall we're getting. And Steve Walsh and I went and talked to the planning board, and then we briefly talked to you guys about flooding issues. And flooding is really a public works event. It's what they handle. We have the stormwater management ponds, and we do water quality work. But that's an obvious topic for this sustainability person to look into and to try to come up with. What should we be doing in the future? What can we do? That's really to be determined in the future. I don't have a great answer for you on how to fix how much rain we've been getting in the last few years.
So does EPS have anything to do at all with, I know it's public works with storm drains, but how would you work with public works, just in consultation with kind of this issue? Or like?
Oh, sure. We can't, whatever the sustainability person comes up with, whatever projects, whatever plans, whatever topics they look into, and you could even suggest things to us to do, to them to do, to research. They have to work with whatever agencies have rules and regulations. There's a whole book on public works standards on how wide the road is, how high it has to be, the 100-year storm event. When you build a new public road or a new private driveway, the 100-year storm event you can only pass 1 foot of water above it, and that's for fire code too, to get the fire trucks, make sure the fire trucks can go in and out. You can't just change the standards without consulting with the department, and it might even require a change in regulations in many cases. So we won't be working in a vacuum, but you're coming up with the ideas and looking into and going out and finding what other people are doing in other places related to those ideas, and then bringing it back to the department, bringing it back to the council.
As I think all of the council members completely agree, when we get heavy rains, we literally have tons of residential properties that now have lakes in their backyards. And that's something that, is fairly new.
Yeah.
That I haven't seen it. And obviously this budget, we have like unlimited demands, and unlimited, and incredibly finite resources. And even if we raise taxes, but then you look at the whole storm drain issue, and no pun intended, well, pun intended, it's definitely a drop in the bucket. Like what we're spending on this issue is absolutely, like, basically almost nothing.
Yes.
And it's such a significant issue, and it's something we haven't even come close to addressing at all, like candidly. So I don't know what needs to change here. Maybe another big flood or two, and but it's something that it's hopefully.
Have we had the Public Works budget hearing yet?
When do we have them? Tuesday.
That's certainly something to talk to Steve about, because he's been very big on an asset management system and trying to show over the next few years, what are we going to do, what are we planning, how much have we spent on certain items. And storm drains is sort of like the bastard stepchild of money.
What is it, like $3 million every 2 years or something that we're doing storm drains? 6 per year now? Okay, so about $3 million a year, which that could be consumed in 2 projects in the county. And there's probably hundreds of them, and so it's fairly. And once again, it's we need everything, and how are we going to pay for it, and who's willing to vote to pay for it too.
That was the number 1 item at the capital budget, the public capital budget hearing this year, was flooding, and people were bringing in videos and showing issues, and the ones that are listed here in this package, the 3 projects they have listed as examples for that $500,000 for the resiliency and the sustainability officer, those are all 3 older neighborhoods that have smaller storm drain systems that people have complained about for many, many years. I know the one in Stoneleigh is at the top of a hill, and it's just a little sump at the top of the hill, and then it goes into the storm drain. But when it rains, the storm drain can't handle the amount of flow because it was built in 1930. And so it fills up with 3 feet of water. And if your car's parked there, your car's in trouble, even though you're at the top of the hill.
Honestly, I have real-life constituents, because I'm right in the middle of, the great flood of whatever. And but I have constituents coming to me all the time in my office complaining saying, what can we do about it? Or what are we doing about it? I honestly, I answered truthfully. I'm saying we really aren't doing much about it at all. And we really don't have much money allocated to fix this. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly we have lots and lots of things we got to address, but this is one I feel like we're not even coming close to even beginning to even consider addressing.
Right.
So, anyway.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Crandall?
just real quick, David, can you let us know the status of the policy change in having the county help remove large debris from the shoreline?
Absolutely. I've worked with Steve, and we've almost got that finalized. I'll try to get that out within the next couple of weeks.
Excellent.
We got a
Thank you.
grant. We got a grant from the state. We got $25,000 to help with that. Plus, we still have our crew that can do that.
Right, that was one of the first things that, after inauguration, that I talked to the new county exec about, and they got back to me, the administration got back to me very quickly and said, we're going to see if we can address that, and the next step was to, it was addressed, it was looked into, and we were informed that there was money out there that we could go after from the state. So thanks for your work on that.
You're welcome.
I'll look forward to that announcement.
Councilman Marks.
So in the previous administration, there was an almost fanatical obsession with getting rid of street trees where they had posed a threat to Buckland sidewalks. And I understand the logic in terms of liability to the county, but a lot of my constituents, particularly in the Greenhouse Alliance, wanted us to look at that policy. Is that something we're willing to do with DPW?
Sure. And again, Saul Pass runs the street
Right.
tree program for DPW, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council members, any other questions? All righty. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your help. Thank you. Unless any members need to take a 2-minute, let's just keep going. Keep going. Yeah, that's right, in your seat. All right, so retirement and insurance. Retirement and insurance. Tab 41, and I guess we'll start on tab 41 with retirement. And then we have our audit staff. Run it, Ruben. Lauren, where's your...